I'm a former student here at GMC. I just graduated actually this past summer. And thank you. And I already started at Georgia College. And part of my requirements for my practicum, which is where we go out and we get experience in the field, is to have a presentation at some point on a health topic. So I've chosen diabetes. It's an epidemic that continues to kill. Let me ask you one question here real quick, and that is, if you were to take a Diet Coke and a regular Coke and stick them in a bottle or a jug full of water, would they float or would they sink?
Sink.
Now, both of them or just one of them? Because the Diet Coke will float.
One of them.
And the Coke will sink. All right? The reason for that is the sugar that's in the Coke. All right? There's in a can of Coke there are 30 grams of sugar, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 packs of sugar. All right? Yes, 11 of those little packs of sugar that you put in your coffee.
That's in a 12-ounce can?
That's in a 12-ounce can. All right? And we drink 20-ounce cans. All right? 20-ounce can has 70 grams of sugar, which is close to 19 of those little packets. All right? A Monster is 60 grams and 8 ounces of sugar. All right? And there's 2 servings in a can of Monster. All right. So the reason I ask is, why is that important? All right. First thing you want to know is that everything that you eat that's a carbohydrate becomes sugar before your body can use it. All right. And why is that important? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. All right. But you got to understand, your body is either going to take the sugar, the carbohydrates that you take into your body, and it's going to turn them into fuel immediately, or it's going to turn them into fat. All right? And both forms are going to eventually turn into fuel, but if you have difficulty with processing sugar, then you have one of the 3 kinds of diabetes that exist. Okay? A little bit of background on diabetes. It is a metabolic disorder which is characterized by the inability to regulate blood sugar. Sometime in the last half of the 2nd century, we began to see type 2 diabetes. More on that in a moment. I'll tell you more about them in a moment. Began to increase. During the 60s, they began to recognize a trend. The CDC was really founded not too long ago. Has been collecting data by county across the United States in order to understand a little bit more closely what's going on. But there appears to be a relationship between weight and diabetes. And it's pretty prevalent. And today, 90% of all diabetes is type 2 diabetes, which means that it comes on in your body after you get grown and you're older. As you grow up, you get older. A little bit of background and history on diabetes itself. 1500 BC was the first documented case of diabetes. The Egyptian 3rd dynasty in Egypt, they had what they called the wasting disease, which was severe emaciation combined with severe hunger and thirst. Frequent urination, and these people, they didn't know what was wrong. They couldn't understand, they would try to feed them to get them fat, and they were dying. They were dying before if they didn't feed them. If they didn't feed them, they lived longer than if they fed them. And again, in the early days, they didn't know what to do, but eventually they came up with the idea of what's called water tasters. They actually had people who would sample the urine of other people that they thought had diabetes, and they could taste the sugar in the urine. And they were able to tell whether or not someone had diabetes or had high blood sugar. It doesn't necessarily mean they had diabetes, but certainly they could tell whether or not they had high blood sugar. About 19th century, they began to develop systems. Yeah, they developed chemical tests. It's litmus papers, things like you pee into a bottle, and they're able to now test